it. I'm so
Sorry.
glad to be here. And yes, I got it. This is being recorded. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Whether you're here for the first time or you've been here for the last few sessions, I'm glad you're here and really just want to appreciate you for making some room in your day to have a pause. That's so important, and it's such a gift that you're offering to both yourself and everyone around you. So we haven't even started yet, and you're already doing an excellent job. So what I'm going to do is offer a little bit of a arriving or settling sort of exercise, and then I was going to continue on a bit from what we've spoken about in the past couple of sessions, which you can watch on YouTube. And I had a theme and a poem on that theme. So, but let's just start with getting here. You've arrived in the chairs where you're sitting. And if there's anything you need to do to adjust, move about, make yourself just 2% more comfortable, please feel free to do that. Then we can just take a couple of deep intentional breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, or whatever is comfortable for you. I know fall allergies get to some folks this time of year. But just a hello and welcome to the full range of the breath, whatever that is in this moment. Breathing in deeply. Maybe exhale with a little bit of a sigh or a hiss. Noticing how the breath moves in the body. As I've said before, a lot of folks tend to breathe shallowly from the chest. And so taking a deep conscious breath all the way down into the belly just reminds the body of what is possible. And then once you've taken those deep intentional breaths, you can just let the breathing return to its natural pace and rhythm. Might be a long breath or a short breath. Somewhere in there might be a yawn or a sigh. A little bit later, we'll turn our focus on the breath, but we won't be trying to control it in any particular way. And as I go through these instructions and suggestions, remember that this is your mindfulness practice. And if anything doesn't feel quite right or comfortable, it's not a good fit, that's okay. You can just let it go. This meditation could just be the sound of my voice making mouth noises, even if you're not attending to exactly the directions or instructions that I offer. The main thing to remember is that you're in charge. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you're welcome to close them. If you'd rather leave them open, that's fine too. For those of you in the planetarium, you may want to watch the stars. If you're watching this online later, if you do keep your eyes open, I usually recommend perhaps clearing the desk, having kind of a quiet and calm surface in front of you, and just cast the gaze downward at about a 45-degree angle with a soft focus, just to reduce any distractions in the visual field. And wherever you're sitting, noticing the room around you, your external experience, the space that you're in, its temperature, whether or not there's a breeze. Perhaps there's sounds that you notice inside or outside of the room. Simply allowing yourself to notice all of these various aspects of your current experience. And then bringing that noticing in a little bit closer, you can notice all the points at which you make contact with the floor or the chair. The sensations in the body as you are completely supported. Perhaps the weight of your arms on the chair, or the warmth of your hands sitting in your lap. The seat beneath you. Your back against the back of the chair. And you might just briefly scan through your body, noticing if there's places of tightness and tension. If you wear glasses, I often recommend taking them off, just to allow all the little muscles of the face to completely relax. Maybe you tend to hold tension in your jaw or your neck. Perhaps your shoulders are a little bit tight. Just mentally scanning down the body. And if there's any place where there's tension or tightness, you could invite it to soften, release. And if you notice that there's a spot that just won't soften or is still uncomfortable, you can just allow it to be as it is. Maybe it will change during the course of this meditation, maybe not. And if there's any small adjustment you could make to just be a tiny bit more comfortable, feel free to make that adjustment and shift. Since this isn't a formal class, I haven't done much lecturing on the benefits of mindfulness, the why of practicing. But I will say that one outcome of meditation that many people experience is a kind of spaciousness. After practicing consistently for some time, you might notice that there's just a little bit of a pause between the moment when you think something and you say something. A lot of people report that their relationships get better after they've been practicing meditation for a while. Simply by noticing what we're about to say, what actions we're taking, as we've developed this practice of observing our thoughts, making space in our minds and our bodies. So I wanted to offer this poem by Judy Brown, and it's called Fire. What makes a fire burn is the space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight, can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces, in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and the absence of fuel together that make fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. So, hearkening back to an earlier session where we focused on the breath as the anchor to keep the mind from drifting away, I invite you to turn your attention to your breathing without controlling it in any particular way, and find the natural pause in the breath. So most people locate breath in the body in the nose, the chest, or the belly. So turning your mind to one of those places, apply a little bit of curiosity to the breath. And when is the pause between the inhale and the exhale? The pause at the top as the breath rushes in, and a brief pause before it lets go. And again at the bottom of the breath, resting before the next breath enters. If you find it helpful to count the breath, if that encourages the mind to stay present with the breathing, counting at the end of each cycle. So an inhale, notice that pause. Exhale, notice the pause. Count 1. And continuing that for each cycle of inhale and exhale until you get to 10. And then starting back over at 1 again. And after a while, if you notice that you're at 17, 18, that's fine. Simply notice that. Bring the mind back to focusing on the breath. Starting over again at 1. And we're doing this practice with as much as possible a sense of curiosity and openness and a willingness to simply be with things as they are. So if the mind wanders, that's just what's happening. If you find that you're judging yourself for having a wandering mind, you can notice that. And see if you can welcome the mind back. Take a little bit of delight even in returning. Like, oh, mind wandering. Okay, I'm coming back now. And if there tends to be a lot of wandering and getting to maybe 7 or 8, not quite making it to 10, feel free to try counting to 3. Many times I've heard people say when they're counting the breath, they notice that they're able to keep counting and the mind is also still wandering. And the human brain is amazing. We can have several thought streams happening at once. We can notice the breath in the body. We can use that capacity to notice the breath in the body while also observing the mind and the thoughts that are arising. So when our minds wander, we can notice what type of thought we've been having. And it usually breaks down into two general categories. It could be wanting a conversation that you're going to have later to go a certain way, wanting your knee to stop itching, wanting lunch, or it can be an aversion, a not wanting, dreading something that's on the calendar later in the week, or wishing that things were going to go a certain way. And wanting to push that away. Judging ourselves for having thoughts is a form of aversion. So, with that same curiosity and openness and willingness to be with things as they are, as you notice a thought, see if you can label it wanting or pushing away, grasping, aversion, whatever words work for you. But notice, which flavor of thought is it? And once you've noticed and labeled it, then just return to noticing the breath, counting to 10, staying curious about the natural pause at the top or the bottom of the breath. What makes a fire burn is the space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight, can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between, as much as to the wood. When we are able to build open spaces, in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and the absence of the fuel together that make fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. So as we come to the end of our practice together, I invite you to let go of the counting and of the labeling. Take a couple of deep, intentional, full breaths. Shift your fingers and toes. Shrug your shoulders. If your eyes have been closed, flutter and open them up again. Returning your attention to the space that you are in, which you never actually left. I hope this practice was beneficial for you today and that you can carry some of that spaciousness into the rest of your day and your week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Let's see. If anybody needs Flex, come and sign the sign-in sheet here. Thank you for attending. We will do this again next Monday. Thank you very much. Chrissa, thank you.
Take good care. Bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
See ya.
I'm getting better at this.
Did you fall asleep?
No, but my mind actually made it to like 3. Usually I'd be lost after 1. So I'm getting better. Practice, right?
Just put your name and department. You're welcome. I'm curious about